Welcome back to our Blue Z Water channel. Today I'd like to discuss the three, what I call the Trinity of gases: hydrogen, oxygen, CO2. So we have this tools chart with what we call our essential technologies, and on this chart is molecular hydrogen therapy, ozone therapy, and breathe like a yogi for dummies. So today I'd like to bring up some simple imagery as to why these are vital therapies. Obviously, we know hydrogen and oxygen are the foundation of life. We know about water, we know about breathing oxygen. We don't really fully understand, most people, we just know we need to breathe and oxygen is critical for life. We hear about oxidative stress, we hear that term antioxidants, and we really don't have any concept of what's going on. We've heard about breathing practices. So I want to make this very simple today and use some simple imagery. Here's the pinched toes. So when you read our Breathe Like a Yogi for Dummy blog, I want you to simply understand this pinched toes effect. The pinching is caused by literally stress response. Now, Dr. Buteyko, in this blog, we explain this, studied the yogis, and the yogis would slow down their breathing. Why? To get more CO2. Essentially, they didn't understand this back in the days about CO2, maybe they did, but when you slow down your breathing, essentially it causes vasodilation, and that is like unpinching this garden hose. Now, anyone knows that if you have a pinched garden hose and you open up the valve and try to get more water to come through, you're going to either blow the hose or you're going to literally accomplish nothing. And that's what most people are doing with stress, trying to push through the pinched garden hose effect. Now, the Chinese would call this qi stagnation. I call it the grip of death. But here's the thing, the mind and all its stress responses causes this pinching, and in turn we try to fight through the pinch instead of learning how to unpinch the garden hose. So the breathing practice, simply physiologically, what it does in about 15 to 20 minutes, and we have a simplified way to do this, it recycles the CO2 back into the body, and that CO2 is what actually causes vasodilation and nerve relaxation. It's a simple fact, and that's why the yogis essentially learned to slow down their breathing, because they were able to retain the proper balance of CO2 in the body, and everything would relax. Now, why is this important? Well, you well know that if you can't get any water through your hose, you're not going to water your garden, and that's your cellular body. So this is like all your micro circulation, and it's blocked in terms of Western medicine. Deeper than that, in terms of Chinese medicine, they would call this qi stagnation, and you're literally blocking all kinds of pathways, not just of oxygen. But anyhow, it's so vital to learn this simple practice. Once the CO2 comes back into balance, voila, you start to water your body with all that oxygen. So it's an effective way to get more oxygen into your body. Now, most people have all kinds of kinks in their hose. Think of every kink as a memory, a trauma. That every time you have an event in your life or something triggers in your mind and you constrict, you pinch your hose, you pinch the entire body. So this is what's called qi stagnation. So you want to work as globally as possible to try to literally look at how your mind is causing the body to react. And this is the stress response. Since once you're in stress, most people never think to do a practice to unpinch the garden hose. They overreact and try to fight through stress. Okay, so getting that oxygen flow is really important. It's a huge, this is, by the way, this practice, Breathe Like a Yogi for Dummies. You can do it for you buy this tool we suggest in this blog. It's about $30. You can Google it, get on Amazon. Okay, so let's move on now to ozone therapy, or oxygen. So number one, we want to get more oxygen into the body by deconstricting the body. But number two, let's look at another analogy here. Think of burning wood in a wood stove. Now, due to all the crap we eat, the fact that the colon becomes sluggish and builds up a bunch of garbage, and we can get into a whole discussion about that, but most people, due to have toxic colons, a lot of garbage, and basically there's all kinds of toxins start to build up, microbes start to come in, things like candida. They feed on the garbage, and our body's riddled with toxins. So the body is actually, you're literally trying to burn up the garbage. Think of the wood as the garbage. So the fire element is what it uses to try to burn, like fever and things like that, is what the body's trying to use to burn up garbage, but it doesn't succeed. Also, oxygen's a purifier and a cleaner, but due to the pinched toes effect, we can't get enough oxygen to get in there and do its job. Now, so we have an excessive amount of toxins, and typically we're choking out through that pinched garden hose effect, the oxygen, so we don't get enough fire to burn the toxins. And what's the byproduct of the burn? Just to be clear here, the byproduct of the burn is soot and ashes. So when people talk about oxidative stress, free radical damage, it literally is the byproduct of the burn, soot and ashes. And this ember burning, these embers in the body essentially cause a lot of what they call inflammatory damage, and they consider this like the #1 cause of aging. It causes a lot of cellular damage. So hydrogen therapy puts out the fire of inflammation. So as you can see, this is different things working together. We want to open up the flow to get the oxygen in. We want as much oxygen as possible to burn up the toxins. Now, obviously, you want to clean the colon. It's interestingly enough, hydrogen feeds the gut and helps it build the gut is like a septic tank. It's supposed to have good bacteria to mulch all the garbage. So typically a lot of people's good bacteria is depleted and they can't mulch the garbage, which in turn causes excessive invasion in the body, and now the fire element's trying to knock out the invaders. Very intriguing how all these elements work together. So simply put, hydrogen puts out the fire of inflammation, but you need the fire to burn the toxins, to purify, and you need the CO2 to open up the pathway for again, we're using fire as like the ozone therapy is like radical fire oxygen, call it, or electrified oxygen. It's created by lightning strikes in a machine, literally mimics lightning, and it's what's called radical oxygen. It's really like the fire element. So everyone knows that ozone is used to clean things up. If you have a room that's full of mold, you put ozone in the room. This is used for all kinds of water for purification. So this is like the fire. It's essentially, we call it electrified oxygen, or I call it lightning oxygen. Actually, it's more accurate because that's what the machine is creating, lightning strikes. So this is lightning oxygen. And when it goes in the body therapeutically, it can knock out all kinds of pathogens and purify the body. You then want the hydrogen to put out to go after the embers. Now, hydrogen also has a unique capacity. These embers are sort of tucked away in all nooks and crannies of the body. The hydrogen molecule will pass through steel. So it has a superb ability to permeate wherever there's inflammation and quell inflammation. But also we're 62% hydrogen by volume. Hydrogen is the building block of the universe. It's the first element of the universe. Everything's built from hydrogen. So essentially, when you breathe the hydrogen, you're now feeding the cell its primary food, and it can start to restore the body. It's like the primary food. The body knows what to do with it. It's like, thank God, it's like the mana of the body, and the body knows what to do with the hydrogen. So it has a dual job, not just putting out the fire, but also literally primary food. Again, the molecule is so tiny that it passes through steel, so it literally permeates everywhere in the body. And that's one key thing when you're sick. The cells are literally blocking receiving. #1, you're choking out the oxygen with the pinched hose effect, and you can't get any oxygen into the body. You're basically shut down for business. So all these these natural elements like hydrogen can't get in as abundantly. So when you infuse the body with hydrogen, you're bypassing this "we're out of business" sign. You're walking right in there and saying, okay, we're going to walk into this most toxic terrain and start to do cleanup. So to learn more about the hydrogen therapy and all its benefits, please click this link here and you'll go into an interview. So think of hydrogen as the building blocks, putting out the fire inflammation. Think of oxygen as the incredible cleaner, and think of the CO2 in the breathing practice as potentiating the oxygen delivery. You see a lot of people, by the way, breathing oxygen, and they're sick as a dog. They're still not well. So that you can see that the oxygen is not getting through. So you want to rebuild the cells, which in turn will help receive the food. When you do hydrogen therapy, you're going to literally function better. You're going to digest your food better. You're going to need less supplements. You now are going to receive the oxygen more effectively, especially if you're doing this practice. Now, I just want to give one simple example. I've been doing a lot of hydrogen therapy, and I've done ozone therapy for a long time. Hydrogen is not its forte. If you're doing hydrogen, you have a lot of pathogens in the body. You need the fire to burn the wood, the toxins, the pathogens. So do not count on this that puts out the embers to be the big fire element to burn the wood. You would need the ozone therapy. Now, if you're doing a lot of hydrogen therapy and the cells are starting to come back to life because you've permeated deep into the cell and you're starting to heal the cell, now when you start to do this fire therapy, it's going to work even better because the cells will be more, let's just say, awake and responsive. And also you can handle the fire element when you have a proper water, so to speak, element in the body. This is a balance. If the cells are burnt out and dried up and you put this fiery ozone into the body, you can feel a lot of aggravation. So just one quick example for anybody who's done ozone therapy. After doing this for a long period of time, the other day, I was able to tolerate much higher levels of ear insufflation ozone therapy with virtually no side effects. Now I acclimated to that therapy. You have to build very slowly and carefully. You can do damage. But I was really this is the most effective ear insufflation ozone therapy I've ever experienced. Why? Because the hydrogen has gone in and done an amazing job at healing the cells in my brain. There's much less inflammation. You don't want to put fire upon fire. So this is one of the problems when you're doing ozone without hydrogen. Of course, you want to be able to quell the free radical damage from the ozone, but just the natural inflammatory response over years and years has literally burnt out your cells. So it's really important to do both together. And if you do this for about 6 months, anybody doing ozone therapy will have a much better balance, and you can do higher levels of the ozone without nearly the reaction. And the cells will process this therapy way better because they're basically starting to heal. And that's what hydrogen does. It's the building blocks for healing, but it takes time. Okay, so these are the 3 gases. Once again, CO2 to unpinch the garden hose, get oxygen flooding into your body. Ozone is the fire to burn all the garbage. And to put out the byproduct, to quell the embers, do the hydrogen for the inflammatory response. And more so, it's the building blocks. I wish I had an image for that. But think of just this incredible mana pouring into every inch of your body, literally down to the RNA and DNA, this primary food called hydrogen. Hydrogen is the building block of the universe and your body. All righty. Appreciate any questions. Contact me, Andrew at blueseawater.com. Thank you.